Welcome to another week of Network Roundtable. This week we have the amazing Mark Seidel, and he has chosen Evie as his sidekick. And the most amazing thing happened. Pete is also joining us today as a second sidekick. We're super excited about that. We will be getting to some of our quotes this week. And of course, we've got my partner in crime, the wonderful, the amazing Stephanie Sims. Was that music too loud? I can't ever tell.
It's hard to tell.
It was pretty good.
Was it pretty good? All right. I always go back and watch the show to see whether that is working out or not. Anyway.
Cool.
Welcome, everyone. I am so excited about this show. Just absolutely pumped. Oh, pumped. There's my pun for the day. Now I'm done. So, Stephanie. Actually, no, let's start with what happened last week. I loved this. I want to start making this a tradition here on the show. I actually want to ask first our superhero why he selected our sidekick, and then our sidekick why they love our superhero. So, Mark Seidel, tell us, why was it when you were asked to be on a show for Courage, really?
You know there is an app for that, right?
Yes, there is an app for that, but
There is an app for that. Actually, you just have to turn off notifications. But
yeah, and I'm doing that now. I didn't expect though that I'd be getting notifications from somebody that I told we would not be talking right now.
Well,
No,
but you can expect that to be on the blooper reel. Just saying.
right. We wanted to get it over with early, Mark. That's
Right.
why we did it. It was actually all planned.
Okay.
So actually, I think what Dennis was saying is that he'd love to hear from you, Mark, about why it is that you picked Evie, and then we're going to hear from Evie about why she was wanting to come on the show and be a sidekick with you.
Okay. It's easy. She is my sidekick. She's my partner in HOAshows.com. She's not only Yvonne, let me say she. Yvonne is an amazing woman. And we're just always there for each other. We work very well together. I admire her. I admire her courage, her straightforwardness, and willingness to help other people, you know, with everything they do. But what I'm going to do is, this isn't my show, but I'm going to flip it up a little bit. And today I'm going to relinquish my superpowers and superhero status over to Yvonne and Pete. And I today would like to be their sidekick.
Wow.
What he was meaning to say that he didn't have another choice because the German crowd just swings the bat so well that he was just way too afraid of me. Now, I'm like, Mark and I admire Mark for all he does with HOA shows, how he helps so many HOA producers and shows. I don't think I'm a superhero. I think he is the hero.
I'd agree with that. We love Mark. He is become such an incredible friend, and what he does with the shows is remarkable. I'm in awe. I've been in the media business for 40 years, and watching what he's doing right now with HOAs it's so much fun because you're cutting edge. You're plowing new ground, and it's a real honor to just be a part.
Okay, well, I just want to let you guys know that even if I relinquished my superhero status, I still keep my powers.
Ah!
I can still fly and read minds.
Good thinking. Good thinking.
You know, there were a couple of different superhero names for you, and I personally have fallen in love with Super Guide, because if you say it really fast, it sounds like Super Guy. and I think they both fit. So I'm definitely thinking Mark Seidel's superhero hashtag name is going to be Super Guide.
I saw that one. I liked it.
Yeah.
I definitely liked it.
So it's interesting, Stephanie. We did not know this was going to happen. We did not know that Mark was going to transfer superhero status. But you and I talked about it today. When we found out what was going to be happening with today's show and the added appearance of Pete, we realized that the true superheroes today were Pete and Yvonne. And thought it was so cool that this was happening this way, because the underlying theme behind this sidekicks and superheroes is that we're all sidekicks and superheroes all the time. And at any given moment, we may have our superhero powers that we use to help others, or we may just be a sidekick to somebody who is a superhero. And that is in flux all the time for all of us. But if we think about ourselves this way, then, well, we're far more capable of doing amazing things. So, Mark, dude, that was really classy, what you just did.
Yep.
That's how we know him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And can I just jump in and say that that's part, to me, of what courage is knowing, okay, now it's time for me to step up, and now it's time for me to step sideways or back so that somebody else can shine, or so that we can hear from somebody else. And
Absolutely. It's not always about us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It just isn't. So.
Yeah.
I thought it's always about me.
Well, it is, sweetie.
Well, okay, but that's different. It is always about you. And then sometimes it's also about some of the rest of us.
Adam Music says that Dennis keeps his powers under his hat. Just saying.
You know, I do have to say that, hang on just a second, I got to show this. That is one sick hat.
I noticed you were a hat man, and you're right after my heart.
Yeah, that is a sick hat. I don't know if you noticed what I did to that, Pete. I actually dropped out your background, so.
Ah, thank you.
Yes, if you want that picture, I'll send it to you. I just was so impressed with your picture, I thought, I got to make it even cooler. So there you go.
Very awesome, thank you. I will have to say that at the moment, although I can see the screen, and then you'll probably get the story through this, I can't see any detail. I've lost vision in the one remaining eye I have, so I know the picture's there, I just can't see what you did. But I will take your word for it and appreciate the effort you put in.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Stephanie, where are we going next?
You got a quote for me?
I do. Let's go with this one. And I'm going to look up another one. We got 3 quotes here that made it. So do you want to, let me, can't see
That's
it,
cool.
can you?
No, it's cool. I can see it. It's all right.
Hold on just a second. While we're doing this, I'm going to take off my, there we go.
There. Oh, that looks prettier. That was a good idea. This week's quote comes from Elena Bellometti, and you'll have to tell me if that's right. Please don't let me massacre your last name. But she says, destroy your fear with courage and determination. And so this quote actually is really interesting because for those of you maybe who don't know, we're adding something new to the show, and we asked some people to fill out a survey telling us what they thought represented most courage and what they thought was the antithesis of courage. And so I think, Mark, you and I have kind of already talked about this a little, but when we get to those stats, I think we're going to talk about this quote again because it's a very powerful quote, but it's really interesting.
What I think is so cool about this quote is that, if I understand correctly, this quote was hers. She didn't give us a source. And so I believe Elena actually said this, came up with this quote herself. Elena, let us know if we did understand that correctly. If not, love to know the source. But either way, thank you so much for that quote. Thoughts?
Mark, what do you think about this one?
You know, it's good. I'm not a real quote person, especially when it comes to the warm and fuzzy. I actually had started a community not too long ago called Not So Warm and Fuzzy, so that we could put like more realistic quotes. Let me see the quote one more time.
Well, it talks about destroying your fear with courage and determination.
Yeah, it's funny that fear constantly comes up in all kinds of quotes regarding courage. It's a good quote, but I tend to think at times that, you know, it brings into play the question of what is courage really? Is courage bravery? Is it fortitude? Or is it lack of common sense at times? I don't know. You have to be careful with these words. But the fact that fear is brought up says a lot. I mean, that's...
And Mark, as well as Pete and I, we had a lot of conversation in the last few days about what does courage actually mean. And I think it's way too widely used. In my opinion, people are, oh, that person is so courageous for doing that. Guess what? They might not have a different chance. One step at a time. And Mark and I specifically talked about a lot of things, and I think one of the few times where the word courage really makes sense to be used is on a recent example. That more or less young kid that just got the Purple Heart for jumping onto a landmine to save his friend, knowingly that he's probably not going to survive it. He had these 5 seconds to make this educated choice of, am I going to do that and kill myself and maybe save him, or am I not going to do it? That for me is courage. In an everyday life where people just set one step ahead of time, I don't think courage is necessarily the right word to use. It's determination, it's drive, it's thrive. But I don't think that courage necessarily is the right word on that.
Do you think that, so if I understand correctly, what you're saying is you think that courage kind of applies to an extraordinary situation?
Yes.
Is that okay? And so, go ahead.
When you see, some people know Pete's and my story, or specifically Pete's story, and we have heard it over the last 2 days, how much courage he has for doing this and for handling the situation like he is. There is not much choice. You either way can be miserable, or you take one step at a time and just get it taken care of.
But do you think it's possible? Oh, I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
I do hear the word a lot. I hear people use the word courage, and I know. I guess there's two different ways of looking at it. Outward looking in, it can look very courageous. I think from the inside looking out, it's more a matter of choice, not so much courage. If you choose to look at it in one way versus another, I'm going to be happy about this, or I'm going to be miserable about this, or I'm going to take charge, or I'm going to hide. Deciding how you're going to handle the situation, making good decisions, hopefully making good decisions, from the outside often looks very courageous. And I think what Evie's talking about is that, at least from this side, it's just about trying to make the best decision you can and the best quality of life, at least in our situation, that we can. And I know I don't feel courageous in what I'm doing. I want to make her life better through the crap I'm putting them through. And So a smile beats the heck out of whining, and I feel better about it that way. But I don't view it personally as being courageous. I just want to make a good decision, good choice.
Do you? I'm wondering whether or not people need a little bit of background here as to what's been going on, and why I felt it was so important for you guys to be on, and
Do you want me to tell the story?
You.
Okay. Well, I'll premise this in that I think I've lived probably one of the best lives a human being can live. Growing up in Northern California, we have a home on family property that dates back 100 years. My mom lives next door. I've got cousins that live on the property. Live in the house that my grandparents built, and literally born and raised on the same property, which is pretty rare. And then we have a summer cabin in the High Sierras. No electricity, no telephones, no running water, but one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And so 3 months out of the year, we'd live up there. We didn't have money, but we didn't know we needed it. And so I consider a life lived like that was just perfect. And then you have things happen to you that can kind of take you by surprise. And 2 years ago, just a few days over 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with advanced stage 4 cancer, head and neck cancer. And they told me it was really bad and they didn't think I had a good chance. That doesn't faze me a bit because I'm not going to put up with that. So we went through the chemo and extreme radiation and all that fun stuff, and a year later I was given a clean bill of health, all good. January of this year I started developing severe headaches. I lost the ability to control the vision in my left eye, found out I had a new cancer, not the old cancer, but a new cancer in my sinuses this time, and this I had a 5% chance of survival. But I had a chance, and so we did surgery down at Stanford Medical. They took out my left eye. They removed a very large tumor, and then I went through a couple of months of chemo and radiation. Again, I've been very lucky in that I have no fear. Of course, I've got this German right here with the baseball bat, so if I ever step out of line, she corrects me. And 2 weeks ago, I started getting, and I should be all clear. I expect to be all clear. I know I'm going to be all clear. But 2 weeks ago, I started getting headaches on this side, and my the eyesight on my right eye started to go bad. So we started our tests, and yesterday at noon, the doctor came in to us and said that the PET scan showed that they had not successfully gotten the cancer from January, that it has now spread across my forehead. But more importantly, it looks like it's in the bone, probably entering the brain, and they see spots in my bones, which they believe means it's blood-borne. And based on all the evidence that they have right now, they think I have 2, 3, 4 months of some life left, and I'll probably be gone within 6 months. And that's some powerful information when you get that. But for whatever reason, it's like a light turned on. I have more energy and more drive and more desire to make every second count that I possibly can. I want to be with her and I want to make her happy. I think the biggest challenge for me is getting rid of all the junk so that I can minimize the pressure that's on her and my mom who lives next door and Mark, my friend. The pain that they suffer through me is far worse than any pain I've got. And I just want so much to make this easy. So it's about smiling and letting everybody know I'm okay. This is not about me. Carrying this forward and doing what I can to help people is the only way I can make this count for something. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to do.
And where does courage fall into that for you? Once again, it's an interesting word.
I honestly don't know how to address the question about courage because I don't feel courage. I don't have fear. I'm lucky that way. Well, I could be maybe the cancer's already in the brain, so maybe that's what the problem is. I don't have any fear. I'm not afraid of this. Now, I will premise it, too, if you'll forgive me. In December of 2006, there was a knock at the door just a few feet from here, and there were some police officers at the door, and they asked to come in. It was a Friday morning. I was married to someone else at the time. We were living in the house, and they asked to come in. Didn't know why. They wouldn't tell me. They just said, please get your wife. We were about to get a divorce. She came in, sat down. A gentleman kneeled in front of us, said, your son was in a car accident, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but he died. And that made this easy. It put everything into perspective. There's no comparison. Losing my son was, I've lived 2.5 lifetimes of my son. He was 21 years old, and I can't be anything but lucky here. So I don't think it's courage. I think it's a desire to make every minute count. And I didn't know what that meant really as much as I do now. 24 hours ago, I got a big dose of what that means. Make every second count.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask a question, though, Pete?
Please.
Is it? I hear exactly what you're saying about it not feeling like courage. But is the fact that there are people in your situation who would make another choice, who would say, I'm just going to give up, or I'm going to quit smiling, or it is all about me, doesn't that change the perspective you have about what it is you're doing? I get that it's about choice, but I think that there are plenty of people who might not make the same choice, and that's what makes it courageous.
Stephanie, Mark and I had exactly that conversation about that part of courage. So with so many people rooting for us and helping us and doing, how is what he/we does courageous, and not the person who says, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm putting a nail to this coffin and I'm done with it. I'm not doing what you would like me to do. How is that not courageous? Just going against the whole stream of things and just having the courage to decide for yourself what you really want and not what others want from you, no matter what that is.
And that can include the courage to know when to give up, either in business, in your personal life, or what have you. That also, if we're going to use the word courage the way it's commonly used, yeah, you have to have the courage to know when to stop.
I would like to address your question. I don't know if it's a desire not to come across as egotistical, and maybe that's part of it, because I don't. I don't like the idea that I'm doing this for some other purpose. I view what she does as courage. I do. She does not have to be here. She could be anywhere. She is clearly a little younger than I am. She could have her own. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's talented, and yet here she is taking care of this guy with 2 years of cancer, and now the doctors are telling me I'm going to die, and yet she's here every second. And to me, that's courage, because she can make a choice to run or to hide, and she doesn't. She faces this with me. She's my rock. She keeps me going. She beats me in the head if I get the wrong attitude. I say that figuratively, of course.
I don't know. I'll hit you in the head if you need it.
I've seen it.
But so I guess to answer your question, I understand why it looks like courage, and perhaps there is some element of it that is courage. But I tend to believe more that we as observers choose to label it courage because it's something that we don't ourselves know if we could do. I will tell you, we just met a woman who, her name's Nancy, and she Oh boy, 8 years ago she was diagnosed with very bad cancer. Her fiance, Claude, took her to every chemo and all the surgery and all the stuff, and for 2 years they went through it and got through it. And a 1-year anniversary after being clear, they're in the car driving to a party. A drunk driver hits him head on. Her fiance and 2 of their friends die instantly. She is left crushed, punctured lung, 12 broken ribs, broken legs, in a coma for a month, comes out of that, takes us a year, learns how to walk and talk again, and then gets diagnosed with cancer again. And she, quite frankly, puts me to shame. She smiles, and I wonder, I mean, I've been through some stuff, but I look at her and think, I don't know, could I do that? I mean, and so I view that as courage, yet she says the same thing I do. She doesn't view it as courageous. She just, I want to be alive, I want to smile, I want to be alive.
Yeah, and I think that's really, because when you were describing what you view as courage in Evie, it's kind of the same thing that we see when we look at you, right? And so maybe what we're saying here is that you don't ever feel courage. Maybe courage is something that other people get when they look at you, but it's not something that you ever feel yourself. It's something that you just have to sit and say, I'm going to make the next decision the best I can. And I really liked what you had to say, Evie, about having the courage of your convictions. You know, that's a catchphrase here, at least, that this is what's right for me. And I'm going to stand up and say, this is what's right for me, even if other people disagree or it's, you know, makes my life maybe harder at the moment. That's what I'm going to do. And I don't know, I really, really appreciate you sharing your story, Pete. And obviously, I'm very touched. But
well, I appreciate that. I will. I have to make a quick comment if you don't mind. One of the things that helps us get through all this stuff is having a
big box of tissues.
Well, I was going to say a sense of humor, but and sometimes it can be perceived as a bit of a sick sense of humor. It might be a little sadistic from time to time when I say that. Recently, efforts we put in a few years ago to do a big show here in this small town we live in Loomis, we built a stage for the community to do media programs. We had famous bands playing on the stage, and it was a complete volunteer effort, and I was the executive director of the program that did it. And 2 months ago, the town decided to name that stage after me, which was very kind, but I thought, hey guys, you know, in memorial, I'm not dead yet, but that was very kind. Well, now with this diagnosis yesterday, I thought, here's what I want to do. I want to have a memorial service while I'm still here, because why should everybody else get to party after I'm gone? So it might be a little twisted, but I'm thinking, let's have a party while I can still enjoy it. We'll do it on the stage. We'll get some bands in here. And more importantly, it's really a fundraiser to help her take care of all the stuff that she's going to need to deal with after I'm gone. And but I got to look at it. You know, anyway, enough about me in that regard. I just
remember when you told me what the name of the stage is going to be, and I just burst out laughing. I was like, what? It's amazing.
Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. And Mark, do you think I should mention the documentary? Is that relevant?
Sure.
Is it the one that you were working on earlier in the year?
Yes.
Yeah,
for 2 years.
That would be great. Yeah.
For 2 years now. Well, 2 years ago on July 16th, 2012, we went into the ER because I couldn't breathe anymore. I had a large welt on my neck. I couldn't breathe, and my fiance at the time and my roommate said, "You're going to the ER," because I was going to die. And so they took me in. The doctors looked at me for hours and hours and hours and came in and said, "Sorry, dude, we don't have the evidence back yet, but as far as I'm concerned, you've got a really nasty cancer." And the pause in the room, right? He's looking at me, and I look over at Yvonne, and I look at my friend Angela, and they're looking at me like, what am I going to say next? Well, I'm a filmmaker, so naturally I said, hey, where's my camera? This is going to make a great documentary. And we started shooting that day. I mean, if I'm in the gurney or if I'm talking to the nurse or we're pulling up into the parking lot or we're getting my eye removed, I've had cameras there. And we try to document it beforehand, especially what's going to happen. You don't know. It's in real time. So for 2 years we've been documenting this with the idea that it's going to have a happy ending. Well, I'm afraid I'm a little twisted. It's not going to necessarily have the ending people expect, but I get to do this now in real time for the next couple of months. And it's a chance to show people you do not have to be afraid. You don't have to think it's courage. Maybe it is. But you do not have to be afraid going into a hard situation. You can choose to look at it through the right lens, which is what the name of the documentary is. I'm a filmmaker. I have one lens, and it happens to be the right one. But it's about perspective. It's about attitude. It's how you look at things. And that's what courage is for a lot of people. It's how you look at it. That soldier that jumped on that grenade, that jumped on that landmine, he wasn't thinking, I have courage. He was thinking, I'm going to try and protect my buddy. And it takes courage to do it, but it wasn't him being courageous. It was him saying, I need to try and save my buddy. And with so many people we've met along this journey, a very dear friend of ours just passed, same thing. He went through, he led the path for me, he's cleared the way, he's waiting for me to he's made sure everybody's waiting for me. He's one of those guys that was an inspiration. He showed me how to smile. He would bring Rice Krispie treats with Rolos mixed in them to the infusion center where we'd be getting our chemo, and everybody loved this guy. He'd be coming in, John's here, he's got the Rice Krispie treats. And this guy had been going through years of hardcore, 3 times around cancer, and every good reason for him to be a ball of goo. And this guy was the biggest smile, and boy, he gave me every reason to say, I want to be like that. And
Well, Pete, you do that for me. And that's why I consider you guys my superheroes. So.
Well, Mark, I can say you do the same thing for us. What you've been through is likewise an inspiration. I take that to heart all the time, and I love having you as a friend, and what you do with Evie, and that's where I'll get emotional. What you guys do together and what you do for her is provide a foundation that she can survive me leaving because she's got friends like you. And thank you.
Believe me, it's my pleasure.
Until I get the baseball bat out.
Yeah, do watch out for that. That baseball bat, boy, it does hurt. Ooh.
Dennis, where are you?
I think Dennis is frozen, my friends.
No,
but
he's not.
Oh, he's not? He's just pretending to be frozen? He's just doing his little...
No.
I thought he was having a stroke in installments or something.
Let's just say it takes a lot for my ADD not to be in control. So if you think I'm frozen, then something amazing is going on, at least in my mind. Yeah. And I go back and look at the footage. I had this huge smile on my face. I looked like I was on drugs, and I guess I am. I'm on Pete and Evie drugs.
Yeah.
Oh, this is...
And yes, our sixth sense of humor is contagious.
Yeah, what was the thing about like a stick in his eye? Who said?
Well, are you talking? When I knew I was going down to Stanford to have the surgery and have the eye taken out, the first thing I asked the surgeon was, hey, do you think when you take the eyeball out, you could put it in a little jar with some fluid for me? Because I want to put it in Evie's office so I can always keep an eye on her.
Not a lie. He seriously asked that.
The doctor thought I was serious, but he did look at me kind of strange. Oh, and I will tell you, her sense of humor. We're in the eye doctor. I've got double vision. This is before we know I have cancer. And he's trying to figure out, and he asked me, well, tell me what you see. And before I can answer, from the back of the room, I hear this voice saying, he sees 4 boobs instead of 2. And he turned around, he started laughing, and he said, now that's the kind of patient I like,
Thanks God I don't have to dress them all for.
But
Sparkle Spencer says You have, this isn't my show, and here I am bringing up comments. It's awful.
You go, Mark.
You have no choice but to fight its instinct. I've had that pinned for a while because I have to agree with that. Survival is an instinct, and we have to survive emotionally too.
Yeah.
So, we protect ourselves in certain ways, and we have our little techniques and ways of dealing with things. Humor, keeping a smile, making other people smile, that positive energy comes right back to you. And Gail Harris, hey Gail, says thank you for being you. What you are giving right now is beyond words. It makes everything else seem unimportant. Ask Evie, bless you.
Yeah, I had that same one pinned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
The two biggest choices you have in life is either way, be happy and enjoy the day, or be miserable. And yes, I know this is usually about courage and business today. We kind of took that off subject. If you are miserable and you are a pain in the ass is publicly useful, right? That's not beeped out. And if you are a pain in the butt, people will make your life more miserable than it already is. If you are nice, if you are appreciative of what they're doing for you, Infusion Center is one of the best examples. You see them from Grumpy Pants, which we've seen, to one of the nicest people ever. None of the nurses wanted to take care of Grumpy Pants. He was constantly in pain. He had to struggle for every single medication or every single treatment. And Mark, you're laughing. We literally name him Grumpy Pants.
I know.
He made his own life so miserable that he is in even more trouble because of it. One little thank you here and there or appreciation for the nurses and his own life would be way easier than that. So it is egotistical of us of making other people's life easier because it makes our life easier.
Sure.
But do you think maybe that's where the fear comes in? Is when that's kind of the link that people put between fear and courage, maybe, is because when they're afraid, that's when they can't get out of themselves. That's when they can't get past this, oh my gosh, it's all about me.
Yes.
And that turns them into the people who are, unhappy and making people around them unhappy, and it makes things worse. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost when you let the fear be dominant. I don't know.
One of the things that I had never encountered until just recently, a few months back, I've never encountered depression. It's something that I know the term, I know what it means, and I thought I had an idea of what it was, but the drugs that I was taking at the time to deal with the pain management and going through all the different stuff, I started to experience brief moments of deep depression, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I could take all the pain, all the fear, I could take all the unknowns and everything, and nothing compared to that moment of depression, because that was one of giving up. That's saying, there's no hope. Without hope, there's no reason. So the fear and the depression, those are so hard. Those, because they're up here. It's not like dealing with a pain in your chest or a headache. It is that. Oh boy. So my hat's off to anybody, and quite literally my hat's off, but that to anybody that has those issues and finds a way to deal with it, because I don't know how they do. And boy, taking that stuff on, that's really hard. I wanted to ask too about bringing this back to business. Courage in business. Being in business, I've been in business my entire life, self-employed, and I have had several big successes, and I've had some wonderful big failures. I've had a couple of national and one international business, and the last one, we got put out of business by the FDA because Coppertone, who was a sunscreen company, said, we don't like your product, and they made our product illegal. Put us out of business. We were in 14 countries, and we were in Walmart, Target, Rite Aid. I had employees, and we were millionaires on paper. And 2 years later, I'm driving a '95 Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it, and that's the only thing I own. I wouldn't trade that failure for anything in my life. Courage in business, in my opinion, is saying, you know what? Failure is a part of business. Success is part of business. If I'm going to be in business, I do have to have the courage to get up and keep trying. Find a way to get the books to work. Find a way to get the product to work. Find a way to meet my market. How do I connect with people? Somebody who's in their 50s or 60s who grew up with 3 channels on television and a landline now has to deal with social media marketing, and if you don't make that change, if you don't have the courage to make that change, you're out of business. So I think courage in business is in many ways the same thing, because cancer in a business can be just as deadly. It's not your physical being, it's your mental. And so I think courage in business is incredibly important. And if you're going to be in business, you have to have courage. You can't do business today if you don't have courage. That I would say.
Well, I just have a quick question. What's a landline?
Oh, Mark, come on.
Me as a kid, I still had to call the operator. That's East Germany for you, right there. And I'm not that old.
But that is East Germany.
Yeah, right.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
But once again, courage in business, is that drive? Is it ambition? Or is it courage? You know me in words.
I think Stephanie had a really good point there. Is courage is what people see in us, not what we feel.
Okay.
I think that's where courage comes in. I think she had a really good point on that one. What we see is just the drive, the determination to keep going and get our stuff going. Other people looking into what we are doing, seeing the courage of it.
So it's not all about us?
It's always about me, but...
Because that sucks.
But we covered that at the beginning, didn't we? I thought we went through that.
Yeah, I see that chart up.
Yeah, this is interesting, and I'm glad that you guys brought this to our attention, so we could get this up here. We had people who answered our survey, and we asked them, what is the most closely, what's the definition that makes the most sense for you as courage in business? And I was kind of surprised about this, that most people said endurance. So, the fact that you keep going, persistence, or the fact that you just keep trying is almost more important than the notion of being heroic or being daring. And so I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Certainly.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Go.
I do think endurance is a big part of it, but it's a part. I think that it's the combination. The thing that scares most clients that try to go into business is the fact that they've got to do it all. They might be really good at painting the picture but not knowing how to wrap it and deliver it. They don't know how to do the books, but they know how to sell. If you don't understand the core nature of business as a whole, something's going to spank you, and that's where the fear comes in. Geez, did I get the right permit for this, or did I, what am I doing wrong here? And if you don't know, so endurance is certainly a part of it. You've got to keep going, but there's research, there's understanding, there's having the willingness to ask for help. A lot of people have that ego that, oh, I don't need any help. Well, oh boy, yes you do.
Yeah, and I think to me that may be where the courage comes in.
Yes.
In business, sometimes it takes a ton of courage to say, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. Can you help me?
You're absolutely right.
So, and I don't. Go ahead, Evie.
I was just joking again. I just mentioned, but I thought we know everything.
Well, that's you and me. We're talking for Pete and Dennis and Mark.
There we got the gender barrier.
Mhm. Almost.
Yeah, you are somewhere right in between, so you get it halfway right.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, you know, I just want to say a couple of people threw out the hashtag the number 4 boobs. As a thing. And I want to say I think that should be, we should all promote this hashtag as the hashtag that's basically saying I'm laughing at my bad situation.
Good.
I think if you're posting something with that and you've seen this show, I propose that we unitedly use 4 boobs to curate that content.
Amen.
I'm really going to be known for boobs, you pretty. Second show about boobs now.
Yeah. Just and then after we can put, if you don't know what 4 boobs means, just ask Evie.
Aha! Brilliant.
Really, no,
Brilliant.
I like it.
Oh my goodness.
Brilliant.
Thanks God we can all laugh about ourselves.
Yeah.
You have to.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm not going to tell any AIDS jokes because, of course, they're going to be inappropriate. But I do.
But you are old enough to tell the age jokes.
Not me.
Yeah, not for people to hear them. But anyway, yeah, humor. That's one of the things that I love about Evie and Pete. Oh my God, the deep, humorous conversations that we have, and the time that I spent with them was, oh my God, wonderful. I did have to leave a little bit early.
But your time here was cherished, and my mom, Mark stayed with my mother next door. She lives 30 feet away in the house next door, and he stayed with her. And she, every time she comes over, is Mark on camera? Is Mark on camera? This morning she said she got up looking for him to come out of the bedroom. She kept waiting for him to come out. Where's Mark?
And how old is she? We have to think of that.
Going on 83.
Did she think I was really there? That's what
I don't think she thought you were really there, but it is possible that she's getting there. On the humor subject, one other quick, I just remembered the same thing. My family, I'm very fortunate, and my family tends to carry the same thing. So I'm about to head down to Stanford for my surgery. I'm going to have my eye out, and a couple of the family members said, would you please have dinner with us before you go down? This is Sunday night. So I go over to Mom's house. 20 family members show up with pirate hats and a pirate patch. Everybody's wearing a pirate patch. I loved it. It's like, now that's what, I don't want people crying about this. I don't want people saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I want you to say, Pirate Pete, yeah.
Yeah.
And on the humor subject, one other quick, I just remembered the same thing. My family.
Wait a minute. What just started happening?
Uh-oh.
That's an excellent question. That sounds like a playback to me.
Yep, that sounds like somebody has the event open and it's playing back.
It's probably that Dennis.
That was me.
So much for technology is supposed to make everything easier. Whoever came up with that phrase is supposed to get shot.
You know, and it's been fighting me today big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we finally got control, wrangled in the blue box. Yeah, that could be a whole hour show on what went wrong there.
Oh, yeah.
And
But they'll change it next week, Dennis. So.
You
Yeah,
just
no kidding,
stop
huh?
making things.
So
Yeah.
the fear thing, there was a chart earlier I was excited about.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dennis, can we see the antonym chart? Because this was the we kind of talked about it, but most.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Okay, so this is another survey response where people told us what they thought the most opposite idea of courage in business was, and I was surprised that a lot of people said fear. But I don't know. Does that come as a surprise to you guys?
Not at all.
No.
No,
Why
that's probably pretty appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, if you, there are times when, a lot of times for some of us, where we have to face fears because we have so many of them. Call it neuroses, call it whatever. And you have to challenge yourself. But whether or not that's courage, again, I'm not going to go there because it's like, is it ego?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I will have something to do and be like, I can or I don't want, I'm afraid. So therefore, I will force myself so that I can look back and say, I did it. So what is that? Is that courage? Or is that me stroking my ego? Or, again, semantics.
That same thing with business. If you look at it from the perspective of making a decision on how you're going to expand your business or change your business, what you're saying, Mark, is it ego that you're deciding I'm going to do that, or is it good, sound business practices? It does take courage to make the decision how you're going to expand, because you could lose everything if you make the wrong decision.
Right.
And that's more arbitrary. It's more nebulous, but it is just as real, because if you lose your livelihood, you can't pay your rent, and you can't pay your car payment, things get south really fast. And now you're facing those big questions. How do I make quality of life out of this? So I see that constantly tying back into business, but I can't help it, because what we're focused on now is how do we get her business sound, because my business has literally in 2 weeks just come to an end after a long time. I now have to officially close my business, and which means now I can focus all my attention on hers and make sure she's taken care of. And her willingness to do this in the face of knowing what's coming. I'm sorry, I'm really touting her because I just am constantly, well, I'm also deeply in love with her. So, but it's one of those things that it takes a lot of courage. And I'm sorry if I'm using that word a lot more. I don't see the courage on the personal side of it. I do see the courage on the business side of it. And I think I could use that word much more comfortably in business, because it's a choice. You have to decide that you're going to do that. And it might be easier to get a job, or it might be easier to, I don't know, do something else. But
go home and move in with my grandparents. No, I don't know.
No. There's a place for you here, sweetie. No.
That's not necessarily easier. Yeah.
No.
But once again, I'm glad that you're using the word courage, Pete, because you begin to see how many different ways that it's used and how convoluted, in my mind, it is. Now, you don't want to go in there, but yes, how it means so many different things. We have the the dictionary definition, but we also have that for that other, the A word, authenticity. And we're not going to go there.
No, because if we get you started on that one, that show's going to run another 3 hours.
Yeah, we're in big trouble. We'll never finish on time. But I'm interested.
What did he say?
I know, Dennis. No, Dennis said we never finish on time anyway, so it's okay. I am interested by the fact that you're more comfortable, it seems, using courage in business, Pete. And so I think really, to me at least, it comes back to what we said earlier, which is it's never something that you feel. It's only something you can recognize in other people. Mm-hmm. And maybe at a certain point, in hindsight, you could recognize it in yourself, but probably not. I think maybe it's just this really weird word where everybody thinks you should have it, but you never feel it.
That's a very good point, because if I try and self-analyze in that case, the years I've been in business, I wouldn't use the word courage in my making decisions. It is that I thought about my, the Excel spreadsheets versus the physical product manufacturing versus the pricing components and my marketing costs, and making a decision there. To me, that's not courage. But to be in that seat and make that choice, my point of view of other people is it takes courage to do that. Because you have other people's lives in your hands, and maybe that's what it's part of. you know, here, this is my life. I'm going to die, but that's mine. If I'm affecting other people, well, I am. I'm affecting other people.
Right.
But in business, you're affecting people's livelihoods, and to carry that weight, it does take some kind of power. It takes courage. It takes strength.
Fortitude.
To do that right.
Right.
Fortitude.
Fortitude. Very good.
Cheryl.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to bring up this Cheryl Locke, Miss Potty Mouth.
That's why I love her.
Yeah, sometimes it isn't courage. It's just being really PO'd and saying, F you, you will not stop me or take me down.
Right.
And Cheryl does want to know what she's talking about.
Yes. And, oh, Lord. Okay. Got it.
But do you think that there's an element of how aware you are of what it is that you really want or what it is that you really need that plays into being able to be courageous, you know, or to have fortitude or to be persistent or whatever we want to call it? You know, how much of it is being comfortable with, I know this is right for me or for my business, therefore I can make the hard decisions and make a good choice, versus I really don't know what to do in this case?
I absolutely think so. I think that having confidence in your willingness to make a decision, and think about the willingness to make a decision. A gentleman that I heard talking at a conference recently, a year ago, from Facebook. He's one of the executive directors of Facebook. Over his desk, he has a sign that says, "Fail harder." And knowing you're going to fail and learn more from that than anything else, that takes a lot of guts. You can call that courage. But, you know, you go into it headlong, I'm going to make the best decision I possibly can, and if I made the wrong decision, I will learn from it, provided it's not on the basis of hurting someone else, provided it's not on the basis of taking from someone else undeserved. I'm a big moral guy when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's do no harm.
Right.
Do no harm. And in that, if that's your mantra, then the decisions you make, you cannot be judged badly for it. You can make the wrong choice, but as long as it's for the right reasons, it's a valid option.
I love that. That was my grandpa's decision-making tool. Was the first question he asked, is it going to hurt anybody else? Well, if you said yes, well, then it was out. You couldn't do it. If you said no to that, he said, is it going to hurt you? And if you didn't see a way it would hurt you, then it was okay to do it. You know, basically, if it's not going to hurt anybody else and it's not going to hurt you and this is the best thing you can come up with right now, then do it.
I like him already.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Wow.
So Dennis, you know what we didn't cover? Dennis, is we didn't cover how many people said they used courage in their business. Did we? You may have put it up, but I just ignored you. Whoop. Oh, there it is. Okay, so, sorry, I have to have my time to geek out, right? So I can see these kind of numbers and pie charts and all that good stuff. So you know what, Dennis? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so we had tons of people who said that it was very important, or that they used it. I think 4 was very important, and 5 was that they used it every single day in their business. So, do you guys think it's that important?
I zoned out. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, I use courage all the time, personally. You know, I use courage just to freaking turn on the cameras. I produce Hangouts on Air. Are you kidding me? Everything that could go wrong will go wrong. You know.
Is that courage, Dennis, or is that faith?
It might be stupidity, actually. I'm just not quite certain of it. Insanity.
There we go.
I'm right there with you.
But yeah, courage. I mean, it's vital to being a entrepreneur of any kind. You know, whether that's a solopreneur or somebody trying to start the next, you know, big thing.
Sure. But I guess that where I'm through this whole conversation, I think I come back to something early on, and that is one's own interpretation of what courage is and that of what other people see and call courage. I'm seeing more and more just through this conversation and thinking about what Mark's been through and knowing what she's going through and is about to go through, and I view that as courageous. And yet I do not, and I cannot view my stubbornness or my unwillingness to go quietly into the night as courageous, as I'm just stubborn and I'm going to give the doctors as much hell as I can to prove them wrong. But not being stupid. I mean, I still got to get things put together. But so I don't know. Maybe that's my point. Is I can't call it courage for me, because to me that sounds ego. But I can call that courage here because I watch her do it. And maybe that's all I.
I can't even do that. I can't even look at somebody and say that's courageous. I look at you guys and I'm like, that's Evie and Pete. That's Pete and Evie. That's just who and what they are as people, and I admire that. I can't label it.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I don't want to label it.
We could label it #4boobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just waiting for somebody to start playing with Photoshop on that one.
Yeah, we're actually going to get we have a photographer friend who has offered to come in and take some pictures for us, which I'm really grateful for. So
why? Because for the first time in your life, you finally have a six-pack?
2 years ago when I got the cancer, I lost half of my body weight. I'm a 5'6" dude. I was weighing 200 pounds. I hit 118.
There you go.
I came up to 140, which is what they call ideal body weight for my size. I didn't know what that meant. But for the first time in my entire life, I literally have a six-pack. I've got this body, and it doesn't fit with everything else that's going on. So damn straight, I'm going to take advantage of this, get some pictures with her. So we're going to be in our bathing suits and get some nice pictures before I can't do this. And I'm all excited about it. It's undeserved from the standpoint I didn't work for this. Well, I didn't work out.
Yeah, you did.
But whoever knew, all you had to do to lose weight and get a six-pack was get cancer twice.
Right?
Well, I just want to tell you guys again how much we appreciate you coming on, and how much, I don't know, it was just the whole way that everything worked was an amazing, as Dennis likes to say, it was a serendipitous moment. And so we really appreciate you guys sharing it with us. And thank you, Mark, for relinquishing your superhero chair for the day.
My pleasure. It's
certainly
so well deserved. And Pete is definitely a hero to me. So.
Yeah. I agree with you 100,000%. And
because he's Pete.
Right.
Not because he has cancer. Not because of the recent diagnosis. Because he's Pete. And I look up to Pete.
Well, and if you'll allow me to thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here. It is an honor, and I do mean it truly. It's an honor to be here. Anytime I get to work with Evie on this kind of stuff, and just to be able to meet new people and share the stories, because I learn every day when I talk to folks, and it helps me better equip and adapt. So thank you for letting us be on your show.
Well, it was our pleasure. Thank you so much. And of course, as you know now that you're part of the Superheroes and Sidekicks team, we're going to have you back whenever it works for you guys and as much as we can.
Sure.
And so I don't know if Dennis had anything else he'd like to close with, or if I'm going to wrap up.
You're going to wrap up? Okay.
All right. Then I will wrap up. I like it.
Okay, then.
So are we going to do
today,
the new wrap-up that we discussed?
This is me drawing a blank, so I'm going to say yes, because I don't remember.
Okay,
We've had so many
so that I
discussions.
can remind
I don't remember.
Stephanie of the wrap up, and there will be homework for you because you assigned homework to me last week when I drew a blank.
Yes.
But no, what we're going to do is we're going to start off. Stephanie's going to give her closing thoughts, and now she's remembering.
Now I remember.
Yeah, and then we are going to let Mark give his closing thoughts, and then Pete and Evie, and I will close up after that. Closing thoughts, both any last thoughts on this, as well as anything that you want to promote. This is your opportunity to tell the world about how awesome you are.
I'll tell you what it's an opportunity for you to put your lower third in.
For me to put my lower third in?
Yeah.
Dennis is going to get homework too. I can tell.
I have to keep taking my lower third off because I have to show art, and I'm going to have to show stuff in a minute again.
I had to do it.
Mark,
Oh, you're so sweet.
I love
Thank you for giving him hell. Okay, well, and I've kind of already done my wrap up without knowing that was what I was supposed to do. So again, I want to thank everybody for being on the show, and I think my biggest takeaway is that it's possible to be courageous without feeling courageous. That's what it felt like to the conclusion that we came to today. And so sometimes just by being yourself and making the right decisions for you, even if it doesn't feel courageous, it actually is. Over to Mark.
Oh, crap. Okay. I'm throwing the word out today, courageous. And I'm going to go with, I do my own thing anyway all the time, and I'm going to go with love. Pete and Evie, adore you guys. And I want to thank you and just I'm here for you guys. And Dennis and Stephanie, love you guys too. Great community that I'm involved with here on Google+, and I couldn't be more grateful. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on. Okay, Pete and Evie, you guys are up. Oh, first, Mark, is there anything you want to promote that you got coming up in the next few weeks?
I'm taking Monday off, so there is no HOA Watch on Monday. No. I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break.
Good.
Slowing things down a little bit and gearing up for the next show, the next shows, whatever I'm doing. So just be there for everybody is my suggestion for everyone. Be there, reach out, and it's not always about us. Damn it. So.
Perfect. Okay, Pete, Evie.
My takeaway from today, Mark, you're wrong. It's always about us. I had to. It was right there. I just had to. And I'm definitely going to have to rewatch the show and overthink my own thinking of the word courageous. And my own selfless self-plug, egotistical self-plug, however you want to name it. Come join Susan Finch and me Mondays at 10 Pacific Standard Time on Geek Speak. So like you guys are going through things like that, we are going through Geek Speak, and I actually have to jump on this call because that's your doctor.
Okay. Yeah. So
I usually
damn doctors.
don't, but in this case I do.
One, my takeaway is I feel like I've made a couple of new friends, and which is wonderful. And it's about wanting to enjoy every minute. I've heard that phrase and I've thought about it many times, but yesterday was the first time in my life I truly was given an opportunity to say, enjoy every second. And it's been easy to say, and I've heard other people say it, and it doesn't mean the same thing until you find out that you don't have that many seconds left to enjoy. So enjoy them. And my empty advice as much as it is to do that. Enjoy. Being on the show right now is a joy. It's a pleasure. And I'm having the greatest time being here, and thank you. I will, my plug is not really a plug so much. If you want to know what's happened over the last 2 years, the day I went into the hospital, she built a Facebook page for us. It's facebook.com/stage4. The number 4 is actually IV, like the Roman numerals. So it's stage IV. You go to facebook.com/stage IV. You'll see from the day I went into the hospital, 8 days later when my dad came into the hospital, a week later he passed away through the first cancer and finding out that it might not be gone, it's gone, the second cancer, and then all the way up to now, we've tried to track everything. And so if you want to know in real time what that looks like, that's where you can find the information.
Wow.
Thank you, Pete.
So my takeaway from today is that I am unbelievably grateful and honored that Pete would include Stephanie and I as friends, who have made friends, and friends from people that are so just, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you for having, I don't know what else to call it. Maybe I should call it #4boobs, but courage to be on here and to talk about this when it's just so close, timing-wise and to the surface. And anyone who's out there that's part of Plus Your Charity, I plan in the green room of throwing the weight of our organization behind this little send-off. So FYI, I hope that you guys will all back me up on that. These guys deserve our love and our respect. So,
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I better probably close explaining what's happening next week. It seems so strange to move into promoting the next show after this one's so awesome. But serendipity always takes over, in my opinion. It did again today, because as I present what next week's show is, it's a more beautiful tie to courage because of what today's show was than it seemed when I looked at it on the spreadsheet that Stephanie had created. There is so much more depth, and so here we go. Time for the closing music. Next week, we're talking all about heart with Megan. And that's it for this week. So glad you guys are here. There are a couple more comments or quotes that will be shared, so please share those, and keep sharing your comments and your thoughts. We got another questionnaire for next week's show. I put the links in already, so thank you for filling that out. That was super helpful, super insightful too. So what can I say? We love you guys.
Love you too.